So this is recorded, and you will be given a copy of the presentation afterwards as well, okay? Now, if you have questions for me, feel free to use the chat function. I may not see it initially, but I will get to it and I will address it, okay? So please, if you have any questions, any burning questions that you have, I'll try my best to answer for you there, okay? So I'm just going to end the poll and go ahead with the presentation, all right? So let's begin. So just to give you a brief introduction about myself, I come from a quality control, quality assurance, and research and development background. I worked in industry for about half a decade, a little bit more than that, dealing mainly with analytical instruments, quality management systems under cGMP environment. Nowadays, I do a lot more on the corporate training side. So we do training consulting for the industry as well, particularly on data integrity, CAPA investigations, and so forth. And here at NeuAge, I oversee the day-to-day operations for our students here. And prior to joining NAI, I was with a company called Apotex for a number of years, doing lab investigations and validations and so forth. Okay. So for today's agenda, I want to cut straight to it. I'm going to give you a brief introduction about NAI and what we do so that you just have a rough idea of what we're about. Most of you in the poll, this is your first experience with us, which is great. So I can give you a brief introduction, okay? And then I'm going to talk about the pharma industry. So what you signed up for, okay? What is the pharmaceutical industry? What are the main departments and positions that are involved? Then I'll talk to you about the careers in the pharma field, so that you know a little bit about each role, salaries, and skills that you need. And then, really what is the pathway to join the industry if you're not already part of the industry, okay? For those of you who are joining, again, if you have any questions, feel free to use the chat function at any time. And when I see those questions, I'll get to it as soon as I can, okay? All right. So first things first, a little bit about NeuAge. So for those of you who are not familiar with us, we are based here in Morristown, New Jersey. We're a first of its kind institute, and we offer industry-focused professional development and training specifically for pharma, biopharma, medical devices, and healthcare. And our parent company has been around for 20 plus years, and we're building off of that experience in training, and we strive to become the recognized leader in professional development for the pharma industry. So we don't offer programs on accounting or on business management. We focus on just pharma here at NeuAge Institute. And if you want to get a brief understanding and history of what we're about, our parent company, again, has been training this space since 2003. We were formally founded during COVID in 2020, when we expanded to the US market. And 2021, we are registered with the Board of Education here in New Jersey. And currently, right now, we are seeking our accreditation with DEAC. That's the Distance Education Accreditation here, okay? So that's a rough history and timeline at NeuAge Institute. And just to give you a bit of a sort of background in terms of our milestones in the past through our parent company as well, we trained well over 5,000 plus industry professionals, placed well over 3,000 plus students, many industry partners, 200 plus, probably more by now. And at NeuAge specifically, we offer over 40 plus certificate courses for professionals in the field. Okay. And here's just sort of a handful of partners. I'm sure a lot of you will recognize some of these organizations that are on this slide. So that was a little bit about NeuAge Institute. What I want to dive into is what you sign up for, the pharmaceutical industry. Okay. So when I did the poll just now, some of you are not or don't quite have experience in the US in particular on the pharma field. So I'm here to explain to you what the pharma industry is all about, the different departments, so that you can see yourself perhaps working in some of these departments, okay? So of course, the pharma industry plays a crucial role in developing, manufacturing, and distributing life-saving medications and therapies. With continuous innovation and regulatory standards, the pharma industry offers diverse career opportunities in research, quality, and regulatory affairs. All right, so let's talk about how this works, okay? How does the industry work from beginning to the end? Now, This is a very simplified version. I'm sure there's a lot more details within each of these departments, but I'm just giving you a quick overview so that you know how a drug is developed and how it's sold in the market. Okay. So the first step is drug development. So this is when we discover or formulate a new therapeutic compound. Okay. And a professional who work in this field, they're part of the preclinical studies. So this is when they deal with petri dishes, they work in the lab, and they test for the drug's efficacy and safety before human studies. Okay, so drug development is the first step here. And clinical research, a lot of you are probably familiar with this, or at least have heard of it in the news, especially with the COVID vaccine in recent years. But this is when once a drug has been developed, it's been approved, we can now commence human trials. And famously, clinical research has 4 phases of their trials, where they test new drugs or therapies and devices into human volunteers through controlled trials to determine the effectiveness and safety of those treatments. So, phase one usually is, sort of smaller population with healthy patients. And as you go to phase two, your population increases. Phase three, multiple sites. And then phase four is post-market. So just to give you an overview of what clinical research is all about. And then the next step, now I'd put this in the next step, but reg affairs is actually throughout the entire process. When you hear regulatory affairs, the title could be a little bit misleading, okay? When people think regulatory affairs, they think about compliance, but that's not exactly it, okay? The reg affairs department, in short, really is to get this new drug that we developed and tested on human trials. We want this drug, if it's safe and and if it works, we do want to now sell it to the market. But you can't just sell it to the market. You have to seek approval from a regulatory body. So if you're in the US or selling to the US market, of course, you're dealing with the FDA, EU, European Commission, and so forth. There are other commissions and then regulatory agencies throughout the world. So the Reg Affairs Department, what they're responsible is to ensure that the products comply with government regulations and industry standards. They prepare and submit documents to those bodies for approval, guiding products through complex legal pathways. Okay. So when you work in reg affairs, it's not just one giant department. It depends on what your organization, what products they work on. So if you are working on medical devices, you need to understand how to get medical devices approved, whether it's in EU or in through the FDA. If you're working with combination products, there's a slightly different process there. So that's exactly what reg affairs is all about. Okay, so not quite sort of your day-to-day compliance, but rather getting products approved in the market. Okay. So this sort of first three phases, kind of product development and then submissions and approval in that sense. And I want to bring you to more on the manufacturing side. Okay. So let's just say we discovered a new drug, we test on human patient, it works. Reg Affairs got the product approved in the market. Now we can actually start manufacturing it. Okay, so I'm probably missing a department here, which I'm not going to cover, which is on manufacturing. But the drug needs to be manufactured into tablet forms, dosages, whatever the case may be. Whenever we manufacture a batch, even if it's something that we're very familiar with. So for example, Tylenol has been made for many years by Johnson & Johnson, but every time they make a batch, they still have to undergo quality control, okay? And I want to explain the difference between quality control and quality assurance, which is the next department. Just because I know a lot of you may have experience overseas, sometimes the naming convention here in North America is a bit different than how they would name it elsewhere. But quality control is the department that works strictly in a lab setting, okay? So they'll test the raw ingredients, the in-process products, the finished products, and they have specifications that needs to be met, okay? So they run a series of tests using various lab equipments and instruments to make sure that the product is safe, free from contamination, it is the right strength and dosage as well. So really, it's essential to make sure that the product's integrity is consistent throughout its manufacturing process, okay? So they work strictly in a lab setting, and that's quality control. So you might be wondering, okay, so what is quality assurance? Because sometimes that's called quality assurance elsewhere, right? Quality assurance here in the US and North America in general, it's more paper-based, administrative-based, okay? They focus on systematic processes to make sure that we don't have any defects or deviations, to make sure that we're compliant. So this is where the compliance comes in with quality standards, internal quality standards, and of course, external regulatory standards. Okay. So they oversee all aspects of production, every step from shipping, receiving, to the sampling department, to the laboratory testing, to production, to laboratory testing again, to storage, to warehouse, to shipping again to customers in Walgreens or CVS or wherever it may be. They oversee all of the documentation, all of the paperwork to make sure that it meets regulatory standards. Okay, so when I talk about storage, for example, perhaps your products needs to be stored at specific temperature and humidity. Now, it's not good enough for the FDA or regulators to say, oh, I stored it at 5 degrees Celsius. You need to have a paper trail to say which refrigerator was it stored in. When was the last time the refrigerator was qualified, and who qualified it, right? And where's your documentation or paper trail that during storage that it maintained at 5 degrees plus minus, 0.5 degrees throughout its entire cycle, right? Even transportation, how to ensure that the transportation was done properly. What about the lab testing? How do we know that the tester who did ran the HPLC test is qualified as a chemist, right? So QA is actually the sort of the police within the organization to make sure that we're compliant and we're following all the rules and regulation. Okay. So that's quality control and quality assurance. Now, the last one is post-market. Now, I know I'm putting this at the very end, but it's actually throughout some of this life cycle as well. Once the product is in the market, there is a separate department called pharmacovigilance, or sometimes they call it drug safety. They monitor the products after it's reached the market, okay? And specifically, they look for things like adverse drug reactions, okay, ADEs. And basically, they want to ensure that the safety of our patients, and also to continuously, comply with regulatory recommendations using real world data. Okay. Sometimes there are adverse reactions that are not caught during the clinical trial phase, but rather they're caught, once we release the product to the market. So this is where pharmacovigilance comes in. Okay. So there you go. Those are really the main sort of 6 departments. I'm going to talk about 5 of the main, 5 of these 6. I'm going to leave out quality control for now. But yes, let's dive in a little bit deeper into each of these, shall we? And in the chat, let me know, how many of you have a medical background, whether you were a dentist or a medical doctor or pharmacist even. Let me know in the chat, because if you do have that background, my recommendation to you is to explore this profession here, drug development and clinical research. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about clinical research. I mentioned a little bit B-Pharm. Fantastic, thank you. So let's talk about clinical research and what they do. Oh, sorry, skipped ahead of myself here. All right, so clinical research. Again, this is a department that does study, human studies, right, on a new drug, new product. Now, within clinical research, there are multiple positions. So it's not just one position called clinical research, okay? You could become MD in the chat as well, thank you. You could work in clinical research as a coordinator, as an associate, as a clinical data manager, medical writer. You could work in project management as well. So there are a lot of positions within clinical research that you can get involved in. Okay. Now, most of our graduates here in NeuAge, they typically start more on the entry level side. So CRC, or clinical research coordinator, is typically the role that they get involved with first. Okay. But we do have students who get involved with medical writing as well. So that's also another somewhat entry level position that you can also obtain as well. Ah, great. Okay. So half of the attendees here are pharmacists or have a medical background of some sort. That's great. Okay. Glad to hear that. So this part's for you, okay? So my recommendation, and also really based on our history and background, our students who have your background in B-Pharm and MDs typically gravitate towards this profession, clinical research, okay? You will need to, beyond your medical background, the foundation of that, you will need to have an understanding of the main regulation in clinical research, which is called GCP, or Good Clinical Practices. Okay, so this, the ethics of it, the just the overall system within clinical studies on making sure that the data is, we it's not tainted, it's not biased, that the studies are conducted ethically as well. So that's all part of GCP. So skills required: GCP, clinical trial management, data management, medical writing. It's all part of this, okay? And just here in the tri-state area, and the typical salary for, clinical research really depends on how far up you go. So all these positions I'm talking about it's not just the one level, right? Once you gain experience, you become level 2, level 3, management, director, VP, so forth, right? So it really ranges, but typically the entry is about 55K, could go up to 180, 200 and more. If you become the principal investigator, for example, okay? So there are a lot of options within this field. And also there's a clinical pharmacy as well. So you can also work as a pharmacist within a clinical study as well, okay? All right, so that's clinical research. And if you have questions specifically for clinical research at the end, I'm more than happy to answer those, okay? But I'm going to move on to the next department, which is regulatory affairs here, okay? So reg affairs. If you recall what I was talking about, reg affairs is, again, not focused as much on compliance, but rather on getting products approved in the market, right? So someone who works in reg affairs, you can have any science background. It does help if you have some industry experience. So whether you have experience in quality assurance or experience in regulatory affairs, it definitely does help, okay? Help land you that position, but also help you with, with the role itself once you're in it, okay? So couple of the key skills that you need to know. You need to understand Common Technical Document, or ECTD, GMP submission for different product classes, project management, and so forth. These are just sort of handful of skills that you need to acquire in order to work in reg affairs and be familiar with those terms. Okay. Has anyone worked in reg affairs in the past? Let me know in the chat if you have. Okay. And if you have, also let me know what type of organization you work for. So the typical positions that you earn are RA specialist, associates, coordinator, right? Submission specialist, compliance officer. These are some of the positions that, our students get, someone on the entry level side, okay? And salaries, again, just like clinical research, it does range, okay? There's a long corporate ladder you can climb to become manager, director, VP, and so forth, right? So it ranges anywhere between 60 to 210K. Prashad, yes, I see. Yes, you're RA manager, and I know you, Prashad. So yes, of course, you have a lot of experience in RA. That's fantastic. All right. So pharmacovigilance. This is also for those who have a pharmacy background or have a medical background as well. Okay. Okay. I see that. Sorry, I know your name's iPhone user. I don't know your name, but I see that you have a QA NRA management experience in Nigeria. Fantastic. Therapeutics. So probably dealing with biologics, I would assume. Okay. Great. So, right, pharmacovigilance. Again, if you have a pharmacy background or medical background, even biology background, this is again for you. They work closely with clinical research, but they focus on different skills. So they have their own set of guidance and regulations, which is GVP. They have to be familiar with adverse event reporting, signal detection, risk management, case processing, and so forth. Typical positions you can see down there: drug safety associate, PV specialist, officer, manager, and so forth. Okay, medical reviewer. So again, if you have that medical background or pharmacy background, highly encourage you to look into clinical research and or pharmacovigilance, okay, or drug safety. I think the last one is quality assurance. Fantastic. So this is near and dear to me because I've experience in QA in particular. So quality assurance, any science background, you're eligible for it. Really, the key skill here is attention to detail, because you review a lot of documents. You take a look at a lot of you have to make sure that you're compliant relative to what the regulation says. So the background has to be science. Key skills, attention to detail, knowing the regulations. So CGMP, of course, here in the US, and then also documents. So a lot of scientific documents like SOPs, understanding deviation reports, understanding root cause analysis, audit, technical writing, and so forth. Okay. Uh, Ogar, yes, there is career options in quality control. I see your question there. Reason why I didn't cover that is because laboratory work is not something that we specialize in, but yes, there is QC, and I'll talk a little bit about that afterwards. Okay. So going back to QA, if you're not familiar with these terms, SOPs, change control, kappa, deviation, root cause analysis, these are the key skills that you need to acquire when you work in quality assurance. Okay. Now, if any of you have sort of ISO background, right, there are a lot of transferable skills there. So if you ever worked in a ISO 17025 lab, a lot of those concepts, principles actually overlaps with CGMP here as well. Okay. So typical position, specialist, associate, coordinators, and so forth. All right. Now, I don't have a slide for quality control, but Ogar, I could talk a little bit about it. So again, QC, they focus primarily in the lab. So the key skills that you need to work in the lab. Oh, sorry, the background for QC, definitely laboratory background. So chemistry, biochemistry, and so forth. Okay. In the lab, typically you'll be using instruments like HPLC, balances, dissolution, and so forth. Okay. So if you're interested in working in a lab, those are key skills that you need to obtain. Okay. All right. So that was a little bit about each position. I hope you all learned, in terms of distinction between quality and pharmacovigilance and clinical research. And one thing I failed to mention, which might confuse you even more, but quality assurance, it's not just for manufacturing. So QA is not just for the manufacturing side. There's also QA and QC positions in clinical research itself as well, right? So they review those protocols and documents, but that's a different type of QA than this QA that I'm mentioning here. So if you're interested in clinical research and you're wondering, okay, where can I work? What type of companies hires for clinical researchers, right? So here they are, Alimentive, very big CRO. We have a very close relationship with the NYC Health Plus hospitals here in New York. Novartis, I'm sure you all know, Equivia, again, another international company. So these are typical organizations that do hire for clinical researchers. Okay. And then on the reg affairs side, here in New Jersey, Sun Pharma, Ipsen, Johnson Johnson. So there are a lot of opportunities in reg affairs. So again, this is more about product submission and getting products approved in the market. RA is a bit more competitive to get in. Most of our students, they typically get involved in clinical research first or quality assurance. And then once they gain that experience, they jump over to RA. And we do train a lot of people who are already in the industry, working QA, working in various positions, and they take courses and programs with us to jump into RA. So that's what I recommend for you too, if you don't have that foundation in the industry. Okay. And of course, quality assurance, pretty much every company has QA. If they're manufacturing, they have QA. Fresenius, Sanofi, so Lupin, they all have QA departments. Readily available, lots of opportunities and openings. Again, it's really a gateway to a lot of different positions, okay? And last but not least, pharmacovigilance. So AstraZeneca, Paraxo, many of these are international companies that you probably have heard of or even work for. And even in your countries, you may have experience with or seen some of these organizations, okay? So these are just some of the organizations involved on the PV side. All right. So that was my, sort of section on the various departments within pharmaceutical industry. This is now part 3 of the presentation on how to get started. Okay, so a lot of you, when I did the poll, sounds like you have experience perhaps outside of the US and you're looking to, kind of get started, right? So how do I get started? How do I get involved? How does, what does NeuAge do to help, right? So here's my part to kind of talk to you about NeuAge Institute and what we do and how we've helped students in the past, all right? So to get started, obviously I'm here to represent NeuAge Institute to talk about what we do. Our slogan is career forward, job ready, because that's what we aim to do, is to train our students and graduates to make sure that they're ready for these roles that we spoke about. So many of you have high level of education, right? You went from high school to BSc and MSc, perhaps even straight to PhD, right? And the problem even with universities here in North America and the US is that this is purely academic, right? So it gets you into an academic route. You publish papers, you become a postdoc, hopefully become a professor. This is a standard way. But this doesn't necessarily lead you to the industry, unfortunately, right? Because in this program that you see is really focused on the foundation of sciences like chemistry, biology. Doesn't really dive into regulations like good clinical practices or medical writing or adverse drug reports. That's not really taught within the system, right? So what NeuAge Institute does is, we provide a pathway. You still need that foundation, you still need that training, you need your B farms, you need your MDs to really have that foundation first. Then we provide you with the training to really fast track you to the pharma industry. So that's what NeuAge Institute can do for you in particular. So, do you belong? You can kind of see a distribution roughly on the level of education of our students. Yes, we have students from B Farm, Farm Ds, and so forth. Okay, we train all level learners, no matter where they are in the academic journey. All right. So yes, we have trained in the past many Farm Ds, and they've gone to have successful careers in the clinical field. So if you haven't already checked out on our website, I just want to, again, this presentation will be available for you, so you don't have to take any notes. If you are interested specifically for reg affairs, you want to learn about some of those key skills we talked about, like ECTD, you want to learn about getting products approved, like medical devices, combination drugs, biologics approved in the market and in various markets. This will be the program for you. So this is our certificate program on regulatory affairs. It is 24 weeks. It is 19 courses or 19 modules. Very intensive study, but it's very comprehensive as well. And once you graduate and finish with the program, you get to work in an RA and labeling, medical liaison. So these are some of the opportunities that will open up for you once you finish with the program. For those of you who are interested in both, pharmacovigilance and clinical research, drug safety, we have this program, a very, very comprehensive program. The longest one that we have. It's 36 weeks, about 9 months in duration. There are 23 courses associated with this. And some of the key skills that we mentioned before, like good clinical practices, clinical project management, clinical data management, it's all covered in these 23 courses. And this is how you then become CRC, medical writing, and so forth, okay? QA, again, quality assurance. We have this was one of our shorter programs. This is about 4 months or 16 weeks, 14 modules, where you get to learn about CGMP, quality management systems, learn about some of those key terms like CAPA, deviation, OS, investigations, and so forth. These are some of the key skills that you'll learn here at NeuAge Institute. I'm getting a question here is, are the programs self-paced? That's actually coming up. So the short answer is yes. And I'll tell you a little bit more about how that works, okay? So now that you understand the program, you might be wondering, okay, besides just the training education, Jason, what can NeuAge do for me? How can it help? Okay. So the training that we have, it's focused on the industry standards. Okay. It's hands-on. And it's all developed by industry professionals who work in the field. Okay, so the latest regulations, the best practices, they bring it to our classrooms, they bring it to our curriculum, and really, it's really meant for people who are not looking to get another certificate or not just to get further education, but rather serious about entering the industry. So this is what we train for. This is what we specialize in. Okay, and of course, our programs are recognized by leaders across the industry. Okay, so the credentials itself, it matters. So again, it is accredited by the Board of Education here in New Jersey, but most importantly, recognized by organizations that we work with as well. One of the things that we specialize in is career guidance. Okay, so we have a dedicated team on career services. They help our students and graduates anywhere from resume review, LinkedIn setup, interview preparation, and also really networking to our industry partners as well. Okay, so this is something that we really focus on to help our students and graduates make sure that they get a foot in the door as well in the field. Okay. And you might be wondering, okay, Jason, there's still a missing piece. What is this missing piece all about? It's great that we get the training. It's great that the credentials are there. I'm already highly educated. It's great that you have career services. What is that missing piece? Well, that missing piece is our industry connections. So through our 20 plus year history with the parent company, we built a vast network of connections that really helps our students and employers stay connected to the field, okay? So that there are opportunities. Right now, we're actually running a situation where we have more opportunities than students to offer, okay? So opportunities are plentiful all across the country, in certain states, of course, okay? So if you're based in South Dakota, I'm not sure if I can help you too much, okay? Texas, yes, of course, Texas. Which city in Texas, if you don't mind me asking? Oh, McKinney. Okay, fantastic. Yeah. So, we do have connections throughout. Okay. California, yes. California, absolutely. There's a big pharma industry out there as well. Again, depends if you're northern or southern. Okay. Tennessee, Prashad, I think we spoke about this. I believe Bay Area, yes, for sure. Nashville, I'm not too sure about Nashville. I think we need to speak with our career services team, Gaurav. Okay, so Prashad, I know who you are, and we spoke before, so I'll get Gaurav to get back to you on that. Okay, and again, iPhone, New Jersey. We're based in New Jersey. Plenty. Connecticut, yes. So yes, opportunities for most of the locations that you all listed here. Okay, so industry connections is important, and that's why students come to us. Okay, now that's how we help our students. And you may want to, also think about, okay, what else can, why NAI, why NeuAge Institute? How can we help you? So I want to give you four, leave you 4 points here on why NeuAge Institute and why we're chosen by many others. Okay. Our training is not your traditional, 2-year master's program or 4-year degree, right? It's really a quick way towards the industry. So we have certificate programs ranging from 4 months, the QA program, to 9 months, like the clinical research pharmacovigilance program. And they're all designed specifically to get you a job in the field very quickly, okay? So we don't want to, take too much every time. We don't want to, drag this on. We really want to get you involved in the industry as quickly as we can. Again, we're in a situation where we have more positions and opportunities than graduates right now. So we really want more graduates to then pursue these. Multiple start dates. So unlike your traditional, education institute, we don't have your fall intake, winter intake, summer intake. Rather, we have 12 start dates throughout the year. Okay, so these are basically the middle of each month. We have a start date and intake. So the next one for us, and I just want to make sure I get this right, it is going to be on November the 18th. November the 18th will be, no, sorry, November 11th will be the next start date, excuse me. Yeah. So November 11th, the next start date, and then we also have another one in December. Okay, so you can jump in whenever and get started right away without wasting valuable time for the next intake. Okay, and then self-paced. So thank you for the question in the chat. Are these self-paced studies? Absolutely. Okay, so these are a combination of interactive lessons, pre-recorded lectures that you can access at any given time, 24/7. Okay, even the quizzes, midterms, exams are all done at your own pace on your own time. Okay, now you might be wondering, how does self-paced work when there is a sort of a recommended time limit for each program? Well, for the recommended time limit, this is for us when we register with the Board of Education. We say that a full-time study will take 16 weeks to complete, 24 weeks to complete, 36 weeks to complete. Okay. Now, if you are working, if you can't dedicate it, full-time attention to your studies, yes, you may extend it, but we do want to get you in the field as early as possible. So that's why we have that recommended time. But all of your courses are self-study and online, self-paced, interactive. You can log in at any given time. On top of that, we have subject matter experts on standby. So if you have questions, if you want to learn more about the profession, if you want to learn how to, if you have questions about a project or assignment that you need to submit, you can always schedule a meeting with our SMEs, whether it's by phone, virtually, or otherwise by email. Okay. They will support you and guide you every step of the way. So even though it's online, we have subject matter experts that we work with who develop these courses to answer your questions, to support you any way we can. Okay. Finally, so beyond short study period, start anytime, and flexible study options, we provide financial aid for those who qualify. Okay, so our admissions team, they do provide bursaries every year. So depending on your status, on your education, there are bursaries that we provide that we do offer. So that's something for you to find out. But yes, we want to help ease your financial burden and also get you ready for the field. So that's what we're all about here at NeuAge. Okay. So that's pretty much it. Again, this information in this presentation will be ready for you. If you have any questions about our programs, and if you want to learn more about this industry, feel free to reach out to us. Our number is there, our address is there. You could visit our website as well to learn more. I'm just going to open the floor for questions because I see a lot of questions here in the chat, so I want to make sure I get to each of them, okay? So let's see. Let me just scroll back up. DDM, have I worked in RA? No, I personally have not worked in RA roles. I worked in quality in particular. Is it better to do a certificate in RA or QA or QA-RA for RA roles? Great question. So I explained this a little bit earlier. Every company that manufactures, or even most companies, would have a quality assurance department. It's required that they have a QA department. So there's always going to be opportunities in quality and QA in particular. But not every company has reg affairs, or even if they do, the department is not very, very big, okay? So that's why the department for RA is typically quite competitive to get involved, right? And if you missed it earlier, I recommend that you either work in clinical research first or quality assurance first to gain some industry experience before diving into RA, okay? So great question there. Would I recommend QA, RA, QA or RA, or QA and RA? If you see yourself working at RA, I think, and you don't have prior experience, I highly recommend the QA RA program that we have here at NeuAge, okay? Because it covers both avenues. And who knows, some of our graduates were able to jump straight into RA without ever working in QA, okay? So that happens as well. So taking the QA RA program really broadens your scope and widens your opportunity. So that'll be my answer to that DDM in terms of which certificate program to pursue. So I hope that answered your question, okay? All right, on the locations, I think I've gone through all of that. Yes, Prashad, you're welcome, and I'll make sure that Grav reaches out to you. What is the shortest certificate to get into RA? So DDM again, so I think that was your question. So the RA program, I'm just going to go back a little bit. I believe the one that we have is 24 weeks. So let me just confirm. Yeah. So it's 24 weeks. That is the shortest certificate program that we have to reg affairs. Okay. iPhone user, how do I get into pharma industry since I don't have any US experience? Great question. Most of the students that come to us are in your position. They have education overseas, they have experience overseas, but they don't have that American experience, right? Don't have that American education. So through our training and our credentials and our certification, this will help you become a lot more attractive to potential employers, having that American education that's accredited, okay? And of course, the training itself is specifically to the pharma industry. So through our partnerships, through our network as well, this is how our students get involved with industry, okay? So I hope that answers your question, iPhone user there, okay? I hope that helps. DDM again, so do QA certificate apply or wait to do the RA and apply for a RA with there? Yeah. So I think I answered some of that question already earlier, and sorry, I didn't see this earlier. Yes. QA-RA program, fantastic program. I think that's what you should do. If you're not sure, you can always start out with the QA program first, and then add additional courses to finish the QA-RA program. You can do that as well. Okay. And yes, there is human, so not just me. I have a whole team of subject matter experts who much more experienced than me. Okay, would answer your questions and be able to guide you through your courses here at NeuAge. Okay. I'm also getting another question privately that says, with the RA certificate, what are the odds of getting hired in RA? So higher. I mean, if you are not getting hired in RA right now, these certificate programs would vastly improve your chances, okay? Again, factor is definitely factor is, location, right? That's also a factor. You need to have pharma companies in your area, your education background, but also your training. So if you know, did a training in QA, but you want to get into RA, that's going to be a little bit difficult. But if you focus on just reg affairs and you want to work in RA, great. You have a decent chance of getting in. But as I mentioned before, those departments are usually smaller. My recommendation is get your foot in the door first through QA or clinical research. Once you build 1 or 2 years experience, you can jump into RA. And that's typically the path for a lot of our graduates. Okay. So again, I hope I answer your question on that. I know RA is a topic of interest for a lot of people here. But that is the reality, is that RA is the more challenging department to get into. Okay. I believe it's EJ or IJ, right? So please correct me if I'm not saying your name correctly. How does NeuAge Institute help with job placement after completion of the program? Fantastic. So I forgot to mention one thing. Our career services, EJ, thank you. So our career services is not at the end of the program. We start to work with you once you're 50% through the program, okay? Oops, I think I'm jumped a couple more slides ahead. So once you're done with 50% of the program, we're going to start with you with your resume, with your LinkedIn setup, and then we're going to connect you to our industry partners that we work with, okay? So I'm just going to go back. Looks like you're based in, Texas. Okay, McKinney, right? That's right. Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll try to form partnerships on that end. I believe we do already have some partnerships, perhaps in Dallas. So yes, we form partnerships out there, and we connect our students to those industry partners as well. Okay, so we attend conferences. We build our professional network over the last 20 years. We will find some sort of opportunity to help you get there. Yes, but most importantly, it's not at the completion of your program. We want you to start working with us at 50% mark. Okay, so many of our students actually they end up working before they even graduate the program. So that's our goal as well. Okay, so EJ, I hope that answered your question there. iPhone user, is there anything like a job guarantee after finishing the RA certificate? Well, great question. I'm so glad someone asked this. Do we guarantee the jobs? And I'm not sure if you're going to like this answer. The answer is no. We can't guarantee the job. Okay. We could set up your LinkedIn, update your resume. We can train you. You can get 100% in all of our courses. Ultimately, you still need to go through the interview process. Okay. We can't force any company to hire our graduates or students. We can connect you to them. We can guarantee that you get some sort of interview. You could meet the employer. But whether or not they hire you, that's still up to your abilities during the interview process. They are going to ask you technical questions, right? Technical questions that we're going to train you for and also prepare you for when we do these mock interviews. But can I guarantee that you're going to get hired? And so, I'm sorry, the answer is no. It's not our company, right? These are legitimate pharmaceutical companies that are out there. So their managers and their HR team, they're the ones who decide who gets hired. But we can assure you that you'll get opportunities to interview with them. Just whether or not you get that role also depends on your ability too. Okay, and of course we'll do our best to prepare you for that when the time comes, right? Your interview and also your training here. But I can't use the word guarantee. It almost would be illegal for me to say it's guaranteed. Okay, so I just want to put that out there. Okay. So hope that answered that question for you, iPhone user. And I hope that's a fair answer for you as well and for everyone else, because I don't think any college or university in the US can guarantee you a job. Because if that's the case, everyone would take the program and land a job right away. That's not how it works, okay? All right. But on that note, our training will vastly improve your chances of landing a job in any of these fields, whether it's RA, QA, or clinical. So just want to put that out there, okay? I have another private question is, what happens if you get the RA certificate and don't get an offer? Is there a guaranteed placement? So I think I just answered that question as well. No. So we will guide you through our career services team. And maybe I forgot to mention, not only do we work with you halfway through the program, we are so confident in our abilities to get you opportunities that we provide our career services for at least 12 months after you graduate. 12 months, okay? So let me repeat that. If you start today, you finish in April of next year, let's just say you apply for jobs and you don't get it within the first couple months, we will still be recommending you to employers and connecting you to our industry partners for at least 12 months. Okay. Now, if you remember what I said, we have more opportunities than graduates right now. So I don't foresee this being a problem. Okay. But I hope that answered your questions about the whole guarantee process. Another question is, if RA departments are small, is it a stable career to get into? What can you branch into later? Is medical field? Okay. Great question again. RA department is small, but most of when you advance in your career, it's a long corporate ladder, right? So people jump from QA to RA to QA, and you can become a VP in regulatory matters, right? So sometimes smaller companies, they even group quality assurance and regulatory affairs together. Okay. So when I say small department, don't sort of mistake me by saying, it's sort of a dead end role. It's absolutely not. Okay. RA actually has the most potential relative to a lot of these other positions. It's just that it is competitive to get in. That's all I'm saying. Okay. So it's not small in the sense that there's nothing you could branch into. You actually could branch into even higher positions than some of these other departments. So I just want to make that clear. Okay. Also, is working in medical field useful for RA? Yeah, because you need to understand, some of those clinical reports. So if you have some familiarity with medical terminology, it helps with some of those submissions as well. Okay. All right. EJ, you're welcome. I just saw your comment there. So then follow-up question is, if no job offer, can we get discount on the next certificate? Yeah, I mean, when the time comes, and honestly, I don't foresee that being an issue. If you do need if you don't get a job offer and you want to take further training, we can talk about it then. But again, I honestly don't, we haven't come across that situation. Okay. So just put your mind at ease, yes, we will guide you and help you any way we can. But in terms of taking next certification and discount on it, we don't really have a policy on that right now. So, okay. So just to kind of share with you what our success rate is and what our mentality is, we expect you to land a job and not take further training. Rashna, do you have any statistics for placement rate for alumni previous students? Great question. Yes. Okay. So we're compiling it. I don't have it off the top of my head. Okay. But that's something that perhaps when we send the follow-up email, I'll try to gather for you. Okay. Great question. Let's see, for previous students. I'm guessing you're talking about for specific programs, right? Yeah. So I see the thumbs up for Rashna's question. Fantastic. We'll gather that data for you and get back to all of you with that. Okay. Yeah. Should we apply to get industry now and gain experience or wait until? Listen, if you can get industry right now, by all means. So this is one of the private questions I'm getting right now is, should we apply into the industry right now and gain experience and then do the certificate? And listen, if you could land a job in the industry, go ahead. It's not something that we want you to actually land a job in the industry as soon as you can. Okay. But I think a lot of you might have already tried, if I'm not mistaken, and let me know if I'm wrong. Okay. And for those of you who especially don't have experience or education in the US, you may find it difficult to get responses from employers. This is the reason why. Okay. So if you could get involved in industry right now, gain experience, and we train a lot of people who are already in industry as well, by the way. As I mentioned before, people who work in QA, they want to show up in RA, they take our certificate programs on reg affairs to gain that experience, right? To bridge that gap. If you can get involved, by all means, that's great. But if you're having trouble breaking through, that's probably because you're lacking both experience and education here in the US, and also lacking that networking connections that we have as well. Okay. So this is where we step in to help. But if you get it all on your own, by all means, this is something that you should strive for. But if you're having challenges already, this is where we come and help you. Okay. Follow-up question says, does manufacturing work help with RA? How do I say this? When you say manufacturing, I guess you're talking about production technician, right? So there are roles in production technicians. It does help, I won't say for RA, maybe for QA, because you do work in a CGMP environment, and knowing that helps with QA roles. But work in production tech, it's a little bit more of a manual labor type of work. Yes, they did. That's right. They deal with batch records. They deal with SOPs. So that's why it is more related to what QA does, I would say, to transition over to quality assurance rather than to reg affairs. Okay. So reg affairs and production, or excuse me, manufacturing, their roles are much more further apart. Whereas at least QA and production, there's a bit of an overlap in terms of record keeping and documentation. And for the record, we do have we have a few students I can think off the top of my head that actually does work in production, and they're aspiring to work in QA, so they took our QA certification. Okay. Follow-up question again is, does research with non-GMP help with RA? So you mean like academic research, right? I believe that's probably what you're talking about. I'm not sure if you're talking about clinical research, because clinical research absolutely helps with RA, right? Because part of that submission process is submitting some of the clinical data and reports, right? But if it's academic research, really depends on what it is, may or may not help. Our RA itself, again, it's focused on getting products approved in the market, understand the regulatory submission and framework within that market, right? So how do I get a vaccine approved in the US market, right? Regulations, so no. So I'm not sure what that means. Does research with non-GMP help with RA? Regulations, so no. Yeah, so maybe you might have missed it when I said RA is not so much on the compliance side, but rather more on product submission, right? So early in the presentation, I actually covered a little bit about RA. It's more about product submissions rather than straight on regulations. Okay, so understanding the submission process, the application process, right? So this is the third point here on the timeline. So yeah, having a science background definitely helps, but research in particular, not necessarily. Okay. So if you have when you say non-GMP research, I assume you mean academic research. Not necessarily, because it doesn't really relate with one another. Okay. Yeah, no worries. Yep, that's okay. Yeah, it's okay if you missed it. Again, the recording and the presentation will be available after this, so you can always go back and watch it. Okay, glad I made time for questions, because that really flew by. Oh, sorry, one more question through the private chat. Does being a medical assistant help? I think if you have a medical background, if you work as a medical assistant, I would recommend clinical research more. Not RA, because again, RA is about product submission, right? So working as a medical assistant doesn't quite overlap with RA. Doesn't really quite overlap with clinical research either, but at least you're dealing with medical terminology. Yeah. Yeah, so specifically as an EKG tech, no, unless you're working specifically in like medical device, even then I wouldn't say RA overlaps with medical assistant. With clinical research, perhaps. Okay. Okay. Sorry, and the follow-up question is from start. So start from scratch. Yeah. So yes, I think I understand what your question is here is, for each of these departments, like, do you get to jump in at a manager position? If you don't have prior experience, probably not. Okay. So as I explained in parts of the presentation as well, many of our students, they dive into some of these early positions like a coordinator position, right? CRC. So yes, it's unfortunate. I know a lot of you probably have experience in education and lots of experience over, as I saw in the chat earlier, 15 years. And so, but that doesn't necessarily, how to say this, employers doesn't necessarily view that as American experience, and then they won't be giving you upper management or even intermediate positions at times. You will have to start somewhat at the entry level position, but trust me, get your foot in the door. Once it's in, landing a job becomes a lot. Transitioning, moving up, getting promoted will become a lot easier. But I think the challenge is just getting your foot in the door within the industry. Okay, so the other question is, do they hire with RA without experience? Yes, they do. They have hired our graduates who do not have experience, and they take on the certificate here with us, and they don't have professional experience, but they get hired. Yeah, so that does happen. Yes, yeah, especially times like this when we have more opportunities than graduates on the RA side. Yeah, it happens quite often, actually. I know you came a little bit later. The person was asking me this in chat. The companies that we work with, yes. So if you see in the slides later on, these are just a handful of companies that we work with. Okay, so we're quite close with NY Health Plus, Alimentive. We have connections with as well, and so forth. So you can see some of these companies that are in the slides here as well. Okay. Okay, so I think our time is almost up. We have 2 more minutes. Um, are there any more questions? Sorry, I'm still seeing more questions through the private. So actually, if for those of you who don't have additional questions, thank you for attending the webinar. We'll send you this presentation again, and if you're interested again in joining NeuAge and sort of learning more about this industry, feel free to reach out to my team here at NeuAge. Again, it's the last slide that you'll be receiving, which is info@neuageinstitute.com. Okay, and if you want to give us a call or if you want to meet virtually, you can always arrange that through them as well, through that email address. Okay. So I want to thank you all for attending. And I know for those of you who have questions, I'm just going to stick around a little bit longer. But if you don't have any questions, feel free to go. And I'll be happy to answer your questions here privately as well. Okay. So thank you for attending, and I'll talk to some of you soon. All right. Prashad, you're welcome. Thank you. EJ, thank you. Thank you for attending. Nice to meet you as well. All right. iPhone, I didn't catch your name, but thank you for attending and joining our session. Okay. Nice to meet you. Ogar, I hope I answered your questions on quality control. Thank you for attending. We'll talk to you soon. All right. You're welcome. Yes. So the 2 or 3 of you who sent me some private questions, I'm more than happy to answer. So I'm just anyone who doesn't need to stick behind, feel free to go. Okay. So the private questions I'm getting, just gonna try to get to them in order. Okay. There's 1 or 2 here. RE certificate does help you in advancing their career in pharma if they're already employed in R&D. Yes, if you have worked in R&D, yeah, the RE program absolutely helps you transition. We have a lot of people who work in QA, they transition into R&D, excuse me, into RA through our program. Okay, and how is it different from the RAPS program? That's a great question. So our certificates, RAPS is not exactly how to say this. You know, they are more of a sort of a society, and their certifications is more for professionals who are already work in the field, whereas our certifications is more for people who are looking to join the field. Okay, so ours is more of a program format, like a certificate program. There's are more sort of individual courses on medical device and drugs, but rest assured, actually, our curriculum is based on not only the RAPS guidelines, but also the best practices based on real industry examples that we experience, that our instructors experience. Okay, so I hope that answered your question. And you like NAI for career help, but wanted to understand if the courses are similar. NAI for career help, but wonder if the courses are similar. Yeah, the courses, yeah. So similar to RAPS, yes, they are based on the RAPS guidance document. So I hope that answered your question. Okay. All right. So yeah, you're welcome. I hope that answered your question. So then for the other question that I'm getting is let's see. Medical assistant. Tiny bit that doesn't apply to RA experience. The companies work with the medical assistant. Yeah, so I hope I answered that question earlier on. For medical assistant, we work with CROs or clinical research operations, and in hospitals like again the New York Health Plus. So they hire for our clinical research graduates. So if you have a medical assistant background, I would recommend getting involved into clinical research, get your experience, get your foot in the door. And there are hospitals and CROs that we partner with and work with that hires from that program. Okay. So I hope that helps. When do clinical plus RA or RA? When to do clinical plus RA or RA plus R. Listen, QA RA you can start at any time. I mean, that's one of the questions from earlier on. We have a program that combines the two. That's because a lot of our graduates they get involved in QA first and then they move on to RA. So you can start that at any time. Okay, clinical plus RA we don't have that currently. Okay, however, the RA program itself has a module on preclinical studies and clinical studies. So I encourage you to go on our website and actually look under our programs and you see under the RA curriculum the list of courses and clinical is part of that curriculum as well. Okay. Is there a way to contact me? I am so sorry. I did not leave my email for anyone, huh? But we will follow, we'll send a follow-up email to all of you, but it's just Jason at NeuAgeInstitute.com. Okay. So you can actually reach out to me directly through my email address. Okay. So I totally forgot to leave that for oops, actually I need to do that again for everyone. But most people have left already, so we'll just whoever's here, you could take a look at this, okay? Let's see. Thank you. Is there a way to contact you? Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. Do we partner with BioMarine and Abbott? Abbott, we have some contact there, but we don't have a formal partnership with Abbott at this point, but I think we have contacts over there. So that's something I could pass along to my career services team to speak with. Okay. Yeah. And then is there a way to pay? Sorry. Okay, so the question is, can I pay for the tuition in full or whatever the case may be, 50% of it and start networking? The answer is not really, because when we recommend you to our partners, we tell them that you're going through this program, you have you have experience or you have the knowledge in quality, regulatory, clinical, whatever it is. So when we send you for interviews, they expect you to be able to answer a lot of those questions, right? So you haven't gone through 50% of the training. It's really hard for us to show, to network you to our partners, right? Because we want to make sure that you understand what GCP is, how to write a study protocol, how to do, if I ask you to submit, get this product approved in the European market for medical devices, that's not something you can't do right now, right? So, unfortunately, our career services is not something that is not a product that we sell. We don't sell, our networking connections, but rather, you have to do sort of 50% of the training first before we recommend you. So I hope that answers your questions. Okay. Yeah, I understand that a lot of you have a lot of education and even experience overseas, and I get that, and it's fair. But unfortunately, that's just how it works here. You do need to have the proper training first before we could recommend you to our industry partners. Okay. And yeah, for those of you who missed it, if you came a little bit later, I'm the director of operations here at NeuAge Institute. There's a slide in the beginning about what I do here at NeuAge. Okay, and do we work international with RA? Not sure what you mean by that, but the companies that we work with, I mean, they have products in various markets. They do reg affairs submissions internationally, but in terms of placing our students in a company in Europe, that's not something that we do now. So I'm not sure if that's the question that you meant, but that's not what we do there. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure how that helps. Okay, so if you have experience working with kids, I don't know. Again, it's not the end of the world. If you worked as a medical assistant, I think getting training in clinical research would go a long way. So, I recommend looking into clinical research. Even if you don't have any experience, it's easy to dive into clinical research. I think it's best if you email me directly and perhaps share your education background, work experience with me, so I can get a better sense of which program to recommend for you. Even if it's not with us, at least I can kind of give you a career pathway, okay? So that, but I really need to see sort of your full profile to make that recommendation. But rest assured, you're not, you're okay. Okay, you'll find a way. Okay, so I just need to take a look at your profile to make the right recommendation here for you. Well, listen, I know we've gone over time and I really thank you all for your attention. Really appreciate your time here, okay? You have my email. If you want to reach out, please reach out to myself personally. You're welcome. Or you could reach out to the info@NeuAge Institute account and I'll be more than happy to help you. So please do reach out, and hopefully, I could guide you. What have you look at your resume? I'm just looking at your resume to give you guidance on which career to go through. Will I be looking at your resumes for at 50% of the program? No, I have a team of career services. They do that. Okay, so they specialize in LinkedIn setup and resume review and interview preparation and networking as well. So that's not me personally. I have a team that does that. And I need a good network because employer keeps asking for US experience is what I need to, yeah. Yes, we have a good network through NeuAge. I think express that. So for those of you who are really looking at network, we do, this is what we specialize in. Okay. So rest assured, email us. We'll look at your profile, give you our recommendation and what we think. But really email us and we'll be able to guide you better that way. Okay. So again, thank you all for your time. I really appreciate your attention. Okay. I'm going to end the meeting and hopefully I get to hear from all of you soon. All right. Take care now. Thank you. Thank you. Take care now. Bye-bye.